Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, Jon Jordan. So in this video, I'm going to make a comparison of the three auctions that F1 Delta Time has made. So F1 Delta Time is a blockchain-based game using the Ethereum blockchain and has an official Formula One license. The game's not out yet. We're not quite sure when it's coming out. The Formula One season is now about halfway through. But during that time, the game has been selling high-value NFTs. So this is the comparison that I'm looking at. There's been three auctions so far. They've been cars, Formula One cars that will work in the game when it comes out. But we can kind of draw some interesting, I think we can draw some interesting conclusions. At least I think they're interesting. So just so you can kind of see what's behind the scenes, this is my spreadsheet. So all I've done is these auctions have been held on the OpenSea marketplace. So all I've just done is manually kind of copy the stuff across. So basically the stuff is the name of the wallet and the bid. So the bid happens in this thing called WETH, wrapped Ether. So it's one-to-one value with Ether. It's just how the auction happens is using this kind of WETH. Obviously US dollar value that's provided by OpenSea. Then a few little kind of things that you can draw from the data, so the how each bid increases. So I've just highlighted these ones that are around 50%. We can also look at the value of the wallet. So we have an idea of the wallet. We can look on Etherscan and look at the value of the wallet and have an idea of the percentage of the bid compared to the amount of cryptocurrency or crypto assets in the wallet, and obviously how many bids these people make. So this is what I'm basing these graphs that we're going to look at on, and that's for the first auction we can see there, and a similar one for the second auction, not quite so colourful, and another one for the third auction. Okay, but let's put spreadsheets aside, and let's have a look at some graphics. Okay, so this is a graph just based off that data. And what we're looking at here is as I say, there's been three auctions. So we have the first auction in blue, the second auction in red, and the third auction in yellow. On the bottom, we have the number of bids, and vertically we have the bids in this WETH, or effectively think of it as Ether. So first auction, 38 bids, closed at 415.9 if you want to be precise, ETH, WETH, and that was at the time over $110,000. So we can see here, obviously, a pretty aggressive trajectory when it gets kind of halfway through. When we see some of these bids are increasing, as we saw in that spreadsheet, we're increasing by 50%. So this one here is particularly good, under 200 ETH, and then suddenly almost 300 ETH. So pretty aggressive bidding up. For the second and the third, so second is in red, third is in yellow, we can see a much shallower trajectory, more bids, so almost 50 bids, both these show actually 48 bids. We can see here the second auction closed at 106 ETH at the time, about $33,000, and the second one closed at just under 196.6 ETH at the time. That's $25,000. Obviously, the price of Ether changed during the 6 week or so period these things happen. I think kind of broadly, a conclusion we can draw is for the first auction, no one really knew what to expect. We had, as we'll look into, we had a few wallets bidding quite aggressively against each other. Obviously, when that happens in an auction, that's great for the people who are selling the asset. And we had this very high trajectory, very aggressive attempt to win the item. For the second and third, we had much more rational, what we might think of, kind of bidding up process. So we don't have this aggressive 50% kind of thing. It's just very kind of similar trajectory all the way through. Both of them, coming in at roughly the same price, roughly the same number of bids. 25% of the value that was happening for the first one. I would argue, at least this is kind of the market moving from no information to some information. And obviously, if you're selling the item, you want this kind of trajectory. If you're buying the item, you want this kind of trajectory. And I would suggest if we have auctions kind of 4 and 5 and whatever, we're going to see more of this kind of flatter trajectory, because that seems to be what the market is now pricing these assets at. But what's interesting to see is we can go into a bit more granularity, and granularity is good. Okay, so what's going on here? It looks horrible. Well, it looks quite pretty, doesn't it? But looks confusing. But this is the first auction. Along the bottom, I've got the number of bids, and at the vertically, I've got the horizontally, I've got the number of bids in the auction, and vertically, I've got the number of bids per wallet. So we have to be a little bit careful here. So we can obviously, blockchain, we have information, and these wallets have names attached to them. We can't assume, obviously, that the name of any wallet is the name of the person involved, and we can't even assume that the each wallet is a different individual. So I'm not really into conspiracy theories. I have had a look at if there's any collusion between these wallets. I didn't have a really deep look, but I had kind of like a first pass look. I couldn't really see any collusion, and I still can't see why anyone would collude to drive up the price of an auction. Obviously, the only reason you would do that is if you're the developer, but the developer is pretty honest, as far as I know, and I know them fairly well, and they also publicly floated on the Australian Stock Exchange. So if any naughtiness was going on, their share price would be tanked, and they would destroy their own business. So I don't think they're doing that. So what have we got here in terms of the colours and the symbols? So first off, we have these, what I've called here, these grey pentagons, which are called various. So these are basically wallets that are bidding but are not very interesting, apart from this one here, which wins. But these are wallets that are not bidding across auctions. They're just kind of speculative bids, and they tend to happen very early on in the auction. So obviously we can see here mainly these are happening in the first kind of 10 bids. What's more interesting is these named wallets, and what's interesting is how we see they interact within auctions and across auctions. So let's quickly work our way down. So we have this one here called Steve321, and we can see here they are. They're the blue circle, and they make 4 bids, and they almost win. So they are the highest losing bidder. So obviously, as we get further along the horizontal axis, this is where it starts getting expensive. You have to have the cryptocurrency in order to win these auctions. So we have Steve321. We're going to see Steve321 again. Also, we have Robert White. So we can see here starts off bid 20 and makes 7 bids. And actually, towards the end, it's Robert White makes a bid, and then Steve321 makes a bid, and Robert White makes a bid. Steve321 makes a bid. Robert White makes a bid. Steve321 makes a bid, and then this kind of anonymous wallet makes its first bid and wins the first auction at 416 ETH. So pretty high value. Also have this one, Luco7, so they make 3 bids. AAY makes 5 bids, but you can see these ones are kind of dropping out, halfway through. We can see these people don't really have access to the cryptocurrency in order to kind of drive into the latter stages of the auction. And also we have DWM, who actually is pretty active. Makes in fact in the first auction is the most active. Makes 9 bids, up to bid 30, and he's actually bidding against Robert White when this big increase is happening. So there we go. That's the first auction. A bit different to the other ones, but there are similarities. So let's go and have a look at the second auction. Remember, this is much smaller. This is a quarter of the value in terms of the end price. But we start to see a few repeat wallets and some new ones that we will see in auction 3. So auction 2 is definitely the bridge between the between 1 and 3. So we've mentioned them before. Steve321, the eventual winner actually of this auction. We can see here, and they're pretty active. So they won. It was their 8th bid, and they were definitely active towards the end. Robert White, again active. In this case, was the highest losing bidder, 7 bids across the auction. We have Luco, which I'm kind of assuming is Luco7 from the first auction. May not be. Doesn't really matter that much. They're not that active. They're active in the early stages, but for completeness sake, put them in. AAY again. active, but only kind of 2 bids, and again early stages. DWM. What's interesting, DWM, remember, in the first auction was actually the most active, so really busy. Not quite towards the end, but pretty busy throughout the auction. In this case, kind of makes a makes one bid, kind of wants to show willing, but not, isn't really engaged at all. And what's interesting is in these graphs, I'm not showing the value of the bids, but we know from the first auction that this one ends up at 416 ETH. So at this point, DWM, I can't remember exactly what this bid is, but this is substantially higher than the second auction closes at. So presumably, DWM, the wallet, has access to, if they really cared, they could win this, or at least drive this price much higher. But they just kind of do one bid. They don't seem to really care. What's interesting I'll talk about kind of the bridge between auction 1 and number 2 and number 3. So these are the wallets that are really driving this. So Love Lily kind of starts in the middle here, makes their bids. It's actually towards the end, so can't say almost wins, but makes the second highest losing bid. And then Ogas Sahara, I guess I'm going to pronounce that. I imagine, looking at the wallet, someone in Japan, and they're super busy. So they bid 10 times. Again, they're not. I mean, they're kind of towards the business end. They're not likely to win, but they've been pretty active. So let's have a look at the third one. Remember, Steve 321 won this. So they Steve 321 is kind of interesting. So they were the highest losing bid on the first one, won the second one. Third one, Steve 321, not active at all. Obviously, they've won an auction. They've spent their ETH, spent a lot less ETH winning the second one than they would have done winning the first one. But now that kind of psychological kind of scratch has been itched, or itch has been scratched. Sorry, wrong way around. So they're not involved anymore. But Robert White is involved. Only makes one bid in this auction, but it's the highest losing bid again. So remember, Robert White here makes the highest losing bid, and on the first auction makes the second highest losing bid. So Robert White's an interesting character, interesting wallet in terms of psychological behavior. So they have access to a lot of cryptocurrency, up to 400 ETH, but in neither the second or the third auctions has kind of gone beyond what they think the market is showing. So that could be a sign of kind of, if you were conspiratorially inclined, that could be kind of interesting. That someone who has access to a lot of cryptocurrency hasn't dug a bit deeper into their pockets. But in this case, anyway, only makes the one bid. So Luco again is a bit more active actually towards the end of this auction. Make quite a few bids. But the real two interesting ones, I guess, for me in the third auction are Love Lily, the eventual winner. So make 7 bids and wins. So that's pretty important. And then Uga Sahara makes 12 bids this time. So in the second auction made 10 bids, but wasn't really there towards the end. In this case, makes 12 bids, is there towards the end, is the second highest losing bidder, but doesn't quite make it. Then we have these two new individuals, Glim. So this circle here makes 7 bids, but drops out. It gets too expensive for them. And then, no idea how to pronounce that, Yuri YY. Not quite so active as Glim, but in the early stages is pretty active, but then drops out. Bid 31 there. So it's kind of interesting. We're kind of starting to see a community, I think, developing. We're starting to see a community. We're starting to see why people drop out. They win something, obviously they're not interested. It's interesting to see people who don't win something, how that then activates them. So I think we could definitely see Steve 321 didn't win the first one, then was going to win the second one. And we can kind of almost, again, without being too naive, Love Lily didn't win the second one, then won the third one. Interesting here, Steve Robert White, who has access to a lot more cryptocurrency, has lost 3 times now. So one to watch if there's a 4th or 5th one, and I guess obviously Ogai Sahara as well, who's been very active through second and third auctions. So that's where I think we're at. Definitely would be interested to keep this comparative kind of series going. I don't know if there's going to be any more NFTs. I can't see there wouldn't be. I can't see that if you got a Formula One license, you wouldn't have an NFT for each of the kind of classic Grand Prix circuits. There's plenty of classic ones, different kind of different nationalities, I should say, as well. And almost you could have different kind of cars and different kind of drivers. Depends how broad the license goes, I suppose. But interesting, nevertheless. Let me know what your views are. I mean, if you think I'm totally wrong, please let me know in the comments. Happy to start that debate. But don't forget to subscribe to the channel. So Blockchain Gaming World, all about the blockchain games. We play blockchain games. I like data, so I tend to kind of dive into data and try and compare data with what's going on in terms of kind of product and what's going on in terms of kind of markets and stuff. So that's my little interest thing. But thanks for watching this video, and hope to see you again soon.